So I need to tell you guys on stage that for a business, you need a business plan, you need investors, but then you need people. You need the talent to make it all happen. So that's what we want to talk about a little bit this morning. And Stuart and Ann, I'm going to talk to you first, and then bring Matt into the conversation, and then we'll just mix it up a little bit. And MailChimp grew up in Atlanta. You can't be called a startup anymore.
No, no.
When you think about being part of Atlanta and growing up in Atlanta, how was the city part of MailChimp's evolution?
Wow. So I personally grew up, I came to school, I left Tennessee and came to Emory to be in Atlanta, and I've been here since. So I've seen it grow up a lot. I know our founders went to school in Atlanta as well, so it was natural, I think, for them to start a company here and grow it. Our original campus was in the backyard of Georgia Tech, so that made a lot of sense in terms of recruiting engineers and beyond engineers to support people there. And it's just been a really welcoming place for us. Atlanta's growing up so much from a technology hub to creative, and it doesn't make sense for us to go anywhere else from a headquarters perspective. We have branched out in terms of some smaller offices in Brooklyn and Oakland, but it's great. What we're doing is trying to really partner with the chamber and other business partners to make sure it remains a great place for technology.
And MailChimp has a quirky and curious and interesting culture. Was Atlanta conducive to that?
Sure.
How?
I think there's this really great kind of underground, quirky, creative culture of Atlanta. So I think we've helped feed part of that, but very open to it.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta was probably open to letting us influence that as well, as we're growing up as a city.
I was reading an article about MailChimp, and the journalist noted something interesting. I can't claim that I discovered this, so I want to give credit where credit's due. And they made a note on your investors relation page where a private company would usually display figures aimed to attract potential dollars, instead showcases dozens of community initiatives, nonprofit organization, and local projects the company has given over $3 million to help. Why is that important? And why is that on your investor relations page?
Well, as you may know, we're a privately held company, so we don't have investors. So I think our investor relations page really sort of reflects that we're investing back in the community and vice versa. And that's just a part of who MailChimp is.
Right.
I think we see, a lot of tech companies talk about equity being an employee's part of the company. We see equity as making things a level playing field. So that's just where investor report and community
Yes,
lies
they had
for us.
investor relations in quotes.
It's great. I'd highly recommend that part of our website, by the way.
Stewart, Kia Motors Manufacturing Georgia, KMMG. I'm just going to say KMMG because I'm going to spit that out. First manufacturing site in North America for Kia. What was it about Georgia? What was it about the pool of talent you were able to find here?
Well, the attraction point to us was certainly having an available workforce. The Troup County, LaGrange area had been certainly devastated by a lot of accounts with the textile industry leaving. At the time when we came, there was about 12.9% unemployment, so you had a workforce that you could certainly utilize. A different industry, but when you have good partners, certainly like Quick Start and other agencies helping you to train that workforce, you can realize a lot of quick advances. I think the record that we have seen with this workforce and the partnerships that we've established can be viewed in the awards that these people have been achieving over the last several years. My plug line always for that is that when you 8.5 years of production now, and they've helped to produce some of the top quality vehicles that have been recognized in the US, that says a lot, not only about the education systems of what we're doing, but it says a lot about the workforce in Georgia. They do have a high commitment to want to excel, and you can challenge them every single year, which we do, to do something more, and they've graciously helped us achieve that.
What were some of the early challenges?
Well, none of the people had ever built cars in their lives. You certainly could have people that have tinkered on them, changing the oil, working on engines and stuff, but from a production standpoint, a car is a very systematic way to build it. So you had to teach the background of how to build a car and why we follow standards. Our philosophy in the beginning was to develop this standard, for lack of a better word, and then try to coach and educate the individuals why it was important to do it in a certain order. We did a lot of individual exercises with the people. Something as basic as saying you have to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe you want to do step 1, 3, 2, and 4, you get different results. And they bought into that. They understood the results were positive when we followed a system. We've continued to grow that, and what you end up getting is a workforce now who bring those ideas back to you. Somebody who's worked in building cars for almost 25 years, they're now telling us different ways to build the car, which they should. They build, 500 a day each, so you got to rely on that experience. I think what we also saw is that if you engage that workforce, then the results will be their results, and they accept it a whole lot easier.
It's interesting you described you were educating them and they were educating you. It became a flow.
Absolutely.
I know you're a big believer in partnerships, and public and private partnerships. Tell us why.
So our partnership started in the very beginning with Kia coming here. There were a lot of opportunities to work with Georgia Quick Start. We set up the Quick Start Training Center. The Kia Georgia Training Center is on site. In working with Quick Start, they helped us to set up like work cells to show people what the type work would be for what they could expect going forward. They continue to provide and help us educate people because technology changes in any industry, and it especially does in ours. So we continue to work with those relationships to help our workforce become that future workforce. Now, future workforce meaning that there's an evolution of processes that we have to continue to accept as products continue to change. And those relationships will still continue. We also work with the technical college system with Commissioner Arthur because we're looking to 10 years, 20 years down the road. There is a shortage, at least from our viewpoint, with maintenance type individuals, welding experts. All of these are skilled trades that really are difficult to find. What ends up happening in our industry is we end up cannibalizing from one another, for lack of a better term. And we need more of those folks. So we can share what we see as the future, which then they can help develop courses, and together we work on how to provide those individuals to industry.
Stuart made a nice introduction to bring Matt into the conversation. Matt, I think a lot of people in the room understand what TCSG is, but for the folks who are watching this online, streaming, or may watch this down the road, can you explain?
We are a system of 22 colleges. We have 85 total sites. Our mission is to build the workforce that Stewart is talking about and to educate our students. And so we have over 600 programs. We teach what industry needs. 88% of our students are placed in field as soon as they graduate. 99% either continue on education or get a job in another field. So what industry demands, what they want, that's the curriculum we write, and that's what our graduates go to. So
how do you know what the industry needs?
Each college, each program in each college has a committee of industry partners that they work with, and they sit down and help us write curriculum, whether it's with Quick Start or whether it's with our college system ourselves. And we write the curriculum specific to what they need to hire.
Can you share with us an example of a change you've seen in the needs, where maybe 5 years ago this was a need, but now it looks like this? Either of you.
Cybersecurity is an area that's really growing with NSA coming to the Augusta area. We see that. We have taught cybersecurity for years at 8 of our colleges. We've worked with the military hand in hand with it through it, but now with NSA coming, that's a program that is changing, and of course new buildings are going up in Augusta that we'll have a place in to teach. We graduated 52 associate degrees in cybersecurity that immediately every one of them have a job. That's grown from 4 or 5 graduates a year. And so that is an area where they have come in and said, this is what we need. And we have private industry in the same building with us along with the military. So,
Have you seen a change in the way, I imagine you have, in
Yeah.
what you used to need 5 years ago versus what you need now, and how do you communicate that to folks like Matt and to technical colleges?
Yeah, I think it constantly changes, and it's been so interesting thinking about this because I think an elite school, have you like Georgia Tech, does have the resources to keep up what industry needs, and we see grads coming out of there ready to hit the ground running in a place like MailChimp. But in maybe smaller schools that don't have that funding, you don't. We have a great example. One of our engineering executives sits on the board at Clayton State University, which is south of the city, maybe a little more underserved than, say, a Tech or some of the other areas. And he saw, sitting on the board, that the faculty wasn't really up to speed, wasn't like up to modern standards. So we've created, and we're just launching a program with Clayton State, MailChimp and Clayton State, called Launchpad. We've got 8 to 12 students who are starting as part of a cohort, along with faculty training that MailChimp and other engineers are helping lead the curriculum for. What it will culminate in is at least 2 of those cohort members will have paid internships next summer at MailChimp, and we're trying to work with other tech companies in the area to make sure the rest of that cohort also can have paid internships. We think we can really make an impact like that, and I think you've got to be really creative in connecting the public and private sector and creating community efforts. It can't be one or the other.
What does it mean to have a tech degree these days? To have a vocational degree, a tech degree, versus what that meant, say, 25 years ago?
You know, for so many years, everyone thought you had to have a 4-year degree to move on, and now business and industry are proving that you really don't. A 2-year degree, well, there are a lot of jobs open, and you know, but what they are looking for are skilled and highly trained people, and a lot of times a 2-year degree fits that need just perfect. And so students can enter the workforce, make a good salary, live close to home, and fulfill that need. And that's changed over the last decade, for sure.
What's led to that change? What do you think, Stuart?
I think the need that technology has changed so much. And I think a lot of, be it my own children or whatever, they're into the, I want to be the next Apple designer or whatever. And what industry has quickly recognized is these other necessary skills in order to maintain equipment or update equipment or develop a new process. We've quickly grown into a shortage of those folks. So there's this void that we're all, as I said before, trying to fight over and get these same people. But when you have someone like the technical college system to work with, and you understand that you can no longer sit on the outside, you have to be a voice into what industry is needing. I think we're quickly recognizing that we've probably been a little lax in the past years. At least our philosophy from the Kia point is I need to tell them, here's what I see coming in the next 5 years. And then we can start to work on how we develop those types of training programs, but ultimately develop those people who are going to come in ready to go to work from day one.
How do you know what you're going to need in 5 years? The world changed so fast.
That it does. It certainly changes a lot faster than it used to.
Yeah.
And all for good reasons. If you look at electronics, and if I go back to our maintenance side, we have some basic idea of where new technologies are going to come to. Some of the principles are the same, but we can also see what directions maybe our R&D folks are going to develop into. Those are key pieces of information that we have to continue to work on every year and maybe provide a little more clarity so that then we can help feed that back into the educational system. It's not an easy process, but it is quite an interesting process. And then it's a matter of engaging those individuals who want to come into the workforce and showing them clearly, here is a path, here is a job, and we need to do better at teaching them this is what it can provide you. You know, it's a stepping stone in many cases. You'll find people that will come in, they may have a 2-year degree, they may decide to go back and get 2 more years. It's all fine and good for us. But what they've learned is a skill now that they can take wherever they need to, and that's extremely important.
You looked as you wanted to add something.
One of the largest things that we do is customized training for current industry. And so as technology changes and as the company grows, they come to us and we rewrite the curriculum for them. But students come back that have been working with them for several years for that customized training. And so we not only do an entry level, but we work with thousands of companies every year on building their own business and building their industry as they see it. And that's one of the biggest jobs that we have, is with customized training for industry, to continue that.
Do you want to add?
Growth.
Yeah, I think there is a myth that you have to have a 4-year degree to have a great job or to be in technology. And while a lot of engineers at MailChimp have 4-year degrees from prestigious universities, a lot don't. We've had interns come in from after 2 years and be amazing engineers and decide, you know what, I don't want to go into further debt pursuing my degree right now. MailChimp will hire me now. I can decide later to use the tuition reimbursement program and finish that degree. But we don't require 4-year degrees for any of our roles. We don't list them in our requirements for recruiting. So I think there is still this myth or a stigma that you have to have a 4-year degree, and that's just not true. I mean, we've had so many people move from customer support positions at MailChimp through our apprenticeship program, getting an engineering role, and 5 years later they're making $80,000, $90,000 a year, and they still don't have their degree. They can decide to go back and do that. We encourage that if that makes sense for them. But I think the past 30, 40 years, we've sort of raised children to think they have to have a 4-year degree. It's not necessarily true. I think it's a luxury.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm sitting here watching this at home, and I'm about to graduate and go, and I've spent 4 years in school, and I spent all this money, and gosh darn it, I want a job.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why are you?
It's
what
great.
do you mean?
I mean, it's great. I have a daughter at the University of Georgia. I'm so glad she's pursuing a 4-year degree, and that she's not going to come out with staggering debt, right? A degree is going to give you so much. It opens up, you learn so much beyond like job skills. You broaden your horizons, you create a network. That's great, but it's not the only path. I think that's what we have to understand. And you may get a 4-year degree and decide you need to go back to school for 2 more years because you want to do cybersecurity. That's great. And you've got a system like this that's affordable and then takes you into that path, and you've also had that great 4-year experience. It's just, there's just not like a formula, I think.
What are you doing to retain the talent that you do that come in?
Well, you have to provide them with really impactful work. You have to provide them with growth opportunities. We have a great internal education program called MailChimp University that teaches really more soft skills like communication styles, management styles, project management, program management. So you have to keep them engaged that way. You have to provide a community where they feel safe with their work. We have only a 4% attrition rate, so I think we're doing that through providing impactful work. And really, I think giving a vision and mission that people can align with. We're really about empowering the underdog in small businesses, and we hire people that align with that. So that's been our strategy.
For Kia, what's the strategy so people don't take advantage of this great system and then decide to move to Denver?
Well, people want to understand what their career path is. We have different internal systems. We have education reimbursement, but we also exercise some job rotation, job shadowing type of exercises. We believe that if you have let's say a well-rounded individual that understands many different aspects of the company, one, you're better prepared if you have an expansion or you have some other turn in direction in what you may have to do. But people find that also to be educational. If you promote it from a point of you're getting a better understanding of the company, and this is making you certainly a more valuable team player, there is no negative in that. Personally, I'm someone who has been rotated through an organization in different areas. I'm an engineer by degree, but I work in HR administration. So I've seen other parts of the business and understand, either why I couldn't get something done before or what path I wasn't going down correctly. So we've tried to follow that philosophy. I've taken our PR HOD, our department head, has worked in the assembly shop. And they have a different perspective. Now, we talked about learning and listening to what our team members tell us, but that was a completely different perspective. Someone who did not have that engineering background saw the world in a different view. And there were things that when I walk into it, I couldn't see what was going on just because I'm used to seeing it. That's a tremendous value. We will continue to do that. And admittedly, there are people that like it, and admittedly, there are some people who don't like it. But you quickly also understand, what you have to do for those folks who don't like it, and we continue to promote that too.
And do you think that is part of how you retain people, by having them become
I
invested
do.
up and down and horizontally and vertically and diagonally in the company?
It's certainly about preparing the workforce for when you have somebody who's going to retire. You have to backfill those, so you've got to have a vision that's 10 to 20 years out, and you're trying to identify who those future leaders are or could be. Some people don't like it, admittedly, and they will go do something else, and that's okay if that's what they want to do. We've made a lot of efforts to try to help them. We have no reason that we want them to leave. They will make that choice themselves. I think in some cases, people that do leave, you're going to find that they get promotions in new areas that they maybe didn't have an open spot in our company. So overall, I think it is successful, and our retention rate has been very positive to keep folks in, and which has been part of our own success story.
I'm going to ask one more question and then open it up to the floor. So Matt, you've told us what has worked, how getting out of the silos of education and workforce and everybody working together works. What is the thing that keeps you up at night about this process? That the nut that you can't crack with this, that is a problem that needs to be fixed?
Enrollment. For businesses to come to Georgia, they have to be assured that they're going to get a steady, highly skilled workforce, and to do that, we have to get them in the door. For us, success is that graduate that goes on to get a job, but in order to have that, we have to get them in the door, and so we have started, of course, working with high schools, because a lot of them are determining at that time what they want to do or maybe what they don't want to do. But we have over 26,000 high school students now in our courses and in our colleges. And so that's what keeps me up at night, is getting the numbers for them to realize that they need a 2-year degree. A high school education, those jobs are going away every year. So they need a college education, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year. And if they can come to us and get that job, they can work at a place like Kia and buy a house and get everything that they want to be a happy and successful family.
It's kind of a hard thing to sell to a 16-year-old, though. It's hard. I mean, I can imagine it's a little tough to sell to a 16-year-old to think about.
It is. It is. And it's changed. That for them to realize you don't walk into our colleges and see sawdust and everything else like you used to in Greece. You just don't see that because the jobs are highly technical now.
All right, we've got time for a few questions from the audience.
Yes. My name's Tim Thornberry. I'm with Cornerstone Financial Partners, but I'm interested to hear, as we're talking about the next generation, and we think about Atlanta in particular, and the suburban counties, metro, and some of that's a bit of a mix. This move towards live, work, play in these jewel box communities outside the center, and then you've got the things that Atlanta's doing in sub-communities. What are the thoughts as it relates to the next generation of talent and getting education logistically closer to them? Yes, there's a lot of remote, but even workforces are now from an HR. My wife's the head of HR for sister companies, and we're starting to move back towards getting more people back into the locations. There's a push and pull there. So as we think about, I live in Gwinnett, losing talent to other areas. We educate them where they're at in the K through 12, and then they move. What are your thoughts on this younger talent and trying to educate them close to the jobs or get them there from where they were educated?
Well, I really think we have to. Gwinnett, our metro counties are so large. Transportation's an issue for a lot of our students. We just opened up a brand new campus in North Fulton, and it filled up within a year of brand new students. So we've got to either take the education to them or provide them opportunities to come to us because they do want to stay in that area. I think every high school student, and I spent a long time in high schools, every high school student talks about leaving home and wants to move away, but really they don't. They come back to that area. Providing education, whether it's online or transportation or getting it to them, we try to be as close as we can to them, because most of our students are going to stay within 9 miles of where they grew up, whether it's Gwinnett County or whether it's down in South Georgia. But that is a key, providing that education, because if they can't get there within 30 minutes, they're probably not going to attend. And so we either have to take it online to them, but so many of our courses are hands-on, they have to be in a lab working. But it is very important, and it's difficult to do. It's expensive to do.
Any other questions? Got one right down front. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right there. Oh, sorry, man.
Hi, I'm Monique. I am a high school teacher in Atlanta Public Schools. Thank you guys so much for being here. My question is for diversity and inclusion. I'm really excited that MailChimp and Kia are here. I really want my students to have a lot of those opportunities. I do teach at a highly predominantly minority school that is predominantly Black. So I guess my question is, what are some of the initiatives? I know we heard 26,000 students are in this TGS campus, and that's really awesome. But my question is, like, how are we bridging the gap for our students that are not even making it to higher ed in any capacity? I know 20% of my students, or a little bit less, are even thinking about, and especially as we talk about STEM or STEAM or whichever version you come to, persisting starts really early. It starts well beyond higher ed. So what are we doing around diversity and inclusion?
I can speak briefly to that. Yeah, so there's some kids that like college isn't even in their head yet, right? So MailChimp has, and this is all employee driven, their ideas. We've got at Grady High School, which is close to our campus, we have people working with the STEM programs there, specifically on robotics and drones. So we've got members of the engineering team there, and that's been an exciting opportunity for them to encourage them to continue studying technology. But I do think we have to go deeper than the university system. We have to go back, even into middle school. I honestly feel like is where you have to like pique that interest in STEM careers, and that's something that we're working on through our community involvement, through our corporate citizenship program, because it's really important to start early.
Diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, I would add to that, what Kia is doing, we participate in a program called A World in Motion. It's through the SAE organization. It goes all the way down into the 3rd grades. So we're back into the elementary schools for exactly what you said, talking about STEM. We recognize that there is a shortage of engineers from many different backgrounds, male and female, and we're trying to encourage that, that interest that's there. So it's a hands-on type program where children are really basically doing problem solving, but they're doing it with a hands-on approach, making models and having competitions with this. We currently have that program in place in a number of counties in our area, and what we've seen is that it has brought out a lot of children to what could I do if I continue along this path. And in many cases, some of the stories even say that this is the first time they've had that type of experience. So we believe that you have to start early in order to generate that individual moving forward. We take that then into the 8th grade. We bring every 8th grader in Troup County into our factory for a tour to show them what we do. And then they come back in even in 10th grade. So there's a lot of different programs, but I think industry has to have an initiative in a program and then actively participate in that.
And I'll give you the final word, Matt, and then we'll be out of time.
Just real quick, I mentioned the 26,000 high school students. It's tuition free. So what we really want is for students to just try a course, whether it's at a USG school or a 2-year school. Just try a college course. A lot of them have never thought about going to college. They've never thought about learning a skill. It's never been a conversation. Here's an opportunity. They can take a free college course, and hopefully then they're going to take another college course and continue on and see what they want to do in life. We are working with Georgia DOE, and we give a aptitude test so that they can see what skills they have and what jobs are out there. It's tied to the Department of Labor, so they can see salaries and what education it takes, and you know, what they can make for a living going into that field. So there are a lot of opportunities for students that they just have to know about.
And for a teacher who wanted to know more about that, where should they go?
Yes, go to your counselor.
Go to the counselor. Where the counselors go? Where can they get the information for the course?
They're getting it all from the college system and from the University of Georgia and from Georgia DOE. And so all that information is there on our website. It's also on Georgia DOE's website about dual enrollment.
Great. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Let's thank our panel.